Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Educator Playground podcast. I am Sandy Herrera with my co-host Shiva Rashada, and we have the honor of welcoming Jenn Lim, my friend and former boss. We're going to chat about that a little bit, from Delivering Happiness. And she's just recently, I don't know, time's gone by fast for me, but it may not have for you. It's like telling a pregnant woman 9 months later that it went by fast and she wants to punch you in the face. So I want to welcome you Beyond Happiness out in the world now. So many things for us to catch up on. I can't believe it's been 10 years since we've been working together.
Wow.
And to see all the amazing things that you and the DH team have done just brings so much joy to the heart. And I'm excited
likewise.
to be here. So welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. 10
10
years like
years,
that.
Right? How did that happen? How did we grow up that fast?
Well, it feels like 20 because the last 3 years felt like 10. So
yes, that's for sure. Let's just we go deep fast on this podcast, and so let's dive in there. Can we just call Tony into this conversation with us spiritually?
Yes,
I am so grateful to that man, not only for introducing me to you, but for sparking my work and my passion and my purpose in this world, and in working with educators and transforming school culture. But I would not be here without you as well. And so with all of that, I really want to kind of honor Tony as part of this podcast with us today. So can you say a little bit about, like, I don't even know if you could do justice in the time that we have to your connection with him and kind of together.
My connection with Tony. Oh, wow. Well, yeah, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of reflection in the last, since he passed. And it's just more and more like I think I already knew when we were able to spend time together just how strong a bond there was. But then, like you said, he's still here, and it's just reinforcing how much, like, how unique he is and how unique our relationship was. Yeah, it's bizarre when, how many times he's still entering my day-to-days and just random thoughts of, like, questions or random things that I think would be only we would think would be funny, probably funny to no one else, because they're silly that way. But yeah, and then just what you said at the beginning, it's like he truly is here in having passed his sense of authenticity, his sense that everyone, that he wanted everyone to be real and live up to their true purpose and potential. And so in those ways, that's, as sad and tragic as it was, it's at least there's that, that's the ripple that will forever be present.
So much so. And I've shared along the way, and I don't know how much I've shared, because sometimes I forget stories that I share publicly versus privately. And just him coming to me in different hypnotherapy sessions that I've done, and dreams and things, and really being the catalyst behind me building this Conscious Educator Playground. And he, like, literally vividly in a hypnotherapy session, we're walking down the streets of San Francisco, and he's like, build a playground, like, so clear as day. And I'm like, where's build a playground? Like, it's just so unequivocal. And so building this Conscious Educator Playground podcast is the beginning of that. And it would not, again, my life would not be what it is without his inspiration and his nudges and his brotherly hugs and all of that. So it just, I didn't know any other way to start this other than to honor him and bring him to the table with us.
Yeah, he's right here. So I think it's perfect way to start.
So let's talk about your journey, like, let alone Beyond Happiness and the book, but even your journey in DH and watching you grow and evolve as a human and as a leader, and the company and the impact and the inspiration that you have been able to spread forth in this world has been so inspiring to me. So thank you for being you. And I'd love to hear, like, what's that like when you reflect back on the past 10 plus years of your journey?
Yeah, thank you for kind words. And for me, it's people like you that are so inspired by these things that we're inspired by, like others and authenticity and all that. It really fuels me. So thank you. It's really an honor. Reflection, I mean, it's still surreal. I mean, I can't believe, you've seen me from the early days to now we're reconnecting again, which is awesome. But what started as like this, like, okay, cool, that sounds like, yeah, let's do it. Let's turn this book into a company. Sounds like a great idea. Had no idea what I was getting into. Like, never thought I'd be leading a company, never thought I'd be a CEO of anything, but it just felt like so, right, because it was so purpose aligned, and people like you and the team we're just all living in this, living out what we were like dreaming or non-dreaming of, because it was so bizarre. But yeah, I had no idea, you had this before where people were like, oh, you're delivering happiness, you must be happy every day. And it's like, no, it's not how that works. So there's been so many amazing moments, there's been so many challenging ones, and it's surreal to know that we're still around. Like, we didn't know what we set out to do. So I don't know. Every day is just like crazy cool blessing, that we can still have this message that resonates, and in some ways, if not more, because of what happened in the last few years. And really, that's why, not to feel like I'm plugging my book, but really it's like why I felt like, with all the things that happened to us and as collective global society, and the traumas and the sad pains and the losses we've had, I just felt like, wow, what a time to be alive, in the most extreme ways of like, wow, we endured a hell of a lot, and here we are. So yeah, I just feel a tremendous sense of gratitude, and I am so, yeah, I mean, everyone had a tough couple 2.5 years, and I just learned so much. I mean, this is all about learning, right? And that's the reflection, is like, wow, I have so much still to learn, and more than ever before. So that has been, I'm grateful that I was able to sit in those lows, like really sit in them and embrace them and feel what they were, so that I at least now what it feels like to be lighter and even more grounded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so powerful. And it does make sense. And I resonate with that. I had someone was sharing with me last week, and if we're this soul before we come to this lifetime, then we're told, like, hey, you get to go and be human and like experience all of these emotions, and you're like, yes, I want that, I'm in. And then we get here, and then we're like, oh, but I don't want that one, and I don't want that one. And we try to reject all of these things. And so I love what you're saying about, like, just sit in it, like feel in it. And because there's so much wisdom there, right? There's so many lessons and juicy bits, as my sister likes to call them, in the sadness and the grief and even the anger, right? That
Yeah,
comes along with it. And there's a
all the
lot there
things.
happening.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. I was just looking at someone's profile the other day, and she's a speaker, and I hadn't heard of her, but like, so basically she had to endure like I think her whole body went through like major burns, and so you can still see it. And so her quote was, people think you're strong when you don't feel the pain, but it's actually when you feel the pain, that's like where true strength comes. And she's a living physical, but I'm sure spiritual and mental example of that too. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And it's like we get to this space in life where you know, the pursuit of happiness seems to be like the driving force that we're seeking. And then I love your pivot. It's like, just go to this deep place and go, no, this is what's beyond like that surface level of happiness. You know, we, you know, at Delivering Happiness, we always talked about, you know, the rock star high is fun, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you still remember stuff from DH. 10 years.
Things. Fun times. I mean, I was, even as you were saying, oh my gosh, you know, from the old days of DH, and I was thinking about when we got Winky. Just thinking about, you know, how happy Fod was when. So, do you want to describe Winky a little bit? Because I won't do it justice.
Yeah, well, when people first hear Winky, they think something else. Apparently, like in the UK, especially, it means something else. Like,
got it.
Yes. So I always get weird faces when I was like, "Yeah, Winky." They're like, "What's that?" So we bought actually we called it Winky One, like Air Force One, but we bought like a 1985 Airstream RV, so you can actually drive it while you're like everyone's partying in the back, and just totally redid it and gutted it out and made it our office, our mobile office. So those were some fun times. I mean,
I remember the unveiling of it. I mean, so that's how long ago it was when I was there. So crazy. Between that and then, you know, the Hulk, breaking out the Hulk gloves, you know, at our executive team meeting.
I still have those right here. They come in handy.
And so this is what makes culture fun, right? And this is where like our passion and purposes, you know, collided in this. Like, culture is this deep, meaningful work below the surface, and that has led, I think, to this journey that you're on and I'm on as well, and kind of fellow happiness travelers in this life of kind of unpacking our own journey to then share with the world and to ignite and inspire that in companies, and then on my side in schools. It's, you know, such a gift to be walking on this parallel path with you.
Totally. I mean, I imagine so many amazing stories of what you're doing in the culture space within schools. I mean, I'd imagine, like, I know every day can't be happy, but it's must be so rewarding touching that part of our society on a day-to-day basis.
It is, for sure. I had the opportunity to be with an administrative team at a high school on Tuesday, and I designed this activity around the 6 senses of culture, and we had them take on the persona of different members of their school community, and none of them could be administrators. They had to choose, you know, a student, a parent, a community member, a district level executive, and they embodied this person. They actually got to give it a name, give the person a name and tell me their story, and we welcomed them into the room, and then we went on a walking tour of their campus.
Oh, wow.
They literally got to describe, you know, what was through all of their senses as that person in that role. And so to get into the depth of the work and the ahas and the takeaways from that exercise, that's when it's rewarding, because some of them are beyond what I would even imagine they would take away. It's really being that facilitator of the work that comes through me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's like, it just kind of gave me chills in the sense of like, we really don't know how and what people will take away and what kind of unearths in them. And so sometimes it's like beyond there's no expectation anymore, because some people are just really take it in, you know, and totally like flourish with it. So cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about, and you mentioned like lifelong learning, and just is part of who you are. But if you unpack that a little bit and think about your passion behind lifelong learning and being on the Conscious Educator Playground podcast, we have to talk about learning, right? We have to talk about education. You are an educator, right? And I know you don't probably give yourself that title, but you are an educator. You are teaching others to live beyond their own happiness, right? And into what's real and what's raw. But why are you passionate about lifelong learning?
Uh, I think I've guessed there's always been such a natural sense of curiosity, and since like as we get older, the more I realize it really has to be intentional. Like curiosity will always be there, but I think for me, especially since I call it 2020 BC, so 2020 before COVID and now, it was like a huge reminder of things that I probably assumed too much, like whether it was DH, oh, we've been around for 10 years, like we've got this. It's like, no, wait till the pandemic hits. And then yeah. And then so because of going through those highs and lows of like the past 2.5 years, I came out of it. The lightness came when I realized I need to be that. I want to have that beginner's mind all over again, like from like a true beginner's mind. And that in this year alone has opened up different things that I used to would say like, oh, I can't do this 7-day meditation retreat. Number one, I can't wake up that early in the morning. And number two, I can't, take off work. And I was just saying yes to things. I was saying hell yes to things that I normally would say, I can't. And that was kind of like proof in the pudding of reminding me every day is a chance to learn if we choose that sort of approach and angle. So I guess now I'm reinvesting in that whole philosophy because I've viscerally felt the difference when I choose to grow, when I choose to absorb new things. And that's made the biggest difference. And that's like, now I'm just, resold on the path of eternal learning.
Right. And that visceral response, right? And we talk often about like that's when you know whether you're in or out of alignment, is when you're noticing what's in your nervous system. And so when it's a full body yes, it's like, okay, apparently we're doing this.
Yeah.
Mind's trying to hold you back and go, no, but that's scary, and all these, what ifs.
Yeah.
Hanging off
totally. And that's the coolest thing is like once you experience that, you can't go back. You can't close that door at all. And you just feel more in tune when you are out of whack. And like, I think people oftentimes just question like, how does that person like meditate every day or exercise every day or whatever it is? It's like it is a practice for a reason because it is a practice. But again, until you feel that difference, that you don't know the value of it. And then I kind of thought of it also like as like a experiential bank, like when you invest in yourself and you kind of like see the dividends, feel the dividends, and then you're like, why wouldn't I keep reinvesting in that?
Right, absolutely. So with that, when was a moment when you questioned everything in life? We talk about, before COVID and after COVID and all of the impact of that. And, I was recently in Florida helping my sister's team and several schools kind of with hurricane recovery from a mental wellness perspective. And so many big, things that have impacted us as humans that I think we've all been in some version of questioning everything. But for you, what was that moment?
Yeah, I think it was a series of moments for sure. And it paralleled the writing of the book because I started it in the beginning of beginning of 2020. And it was like a nice and tidy outline. It was all like boom, 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 so straightforward and clear cut. Then of course, we got 2020. So every headline that came up, I was like, oh, I can't write that anymore. Or, oh, that's crap. And that all led up to, Tony's passing in November. And that I had 5 weeks for the book to be turned in. And it just, if you're talking about one of those moments, it was one of those moments that I questioned everything. And it really the irony, right? The irony of like, I'm here writing this book that, I felt so confident at the beginning of it, because I knew what I was, sharing. And then by the end of that year, I was like, where are we now? And why is it worth saying? Why is my voice worth, you know, being put out there? So that's when I really had to take a super hard look in the mirror and ask myself, as I was processing Tony's passing, like, do I really believe in these things? It's these moments that are just like, that I feel like it's a true test of, like, it was a reset on humanity, I feel, on all of us. So yeah, I had to do some really deep digging at that time to actually come out the other end and realize that it means more than ever, all these things that we believe in, and the things that I mentioned in the book, but also just how we just really need to double down on things that that we can, with self-awareness, have clarity, that are the most important things to our lives. And that's not, obviously climbing the ladder or hitting that next socioeconomic rung. But yeah, that was a big whammy in my life, as I'm sure everyone went through in some form or another.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you redefine success in that time?
I don't think I did, because I think I've always had a fair definition of it that was anti-traditional success.
What does success look and feel like to you?
I think these days, and because of the work I've been doing on my own or on myself, I had, I didn't realize the depth of self-care and self-love. I was like, I got that, right? I got that figured. And it was just like when that whammy hit, and um I just realized a lot of different things after I started learning and testing things on myself. And so I think the success for me now is being able to be as aligned to that sense of where I know my groundedness is. And we love impacting people, right? We love sharing and connecting and teaching and learning. But I now know that my success is based on like, the more I work on myself and ground myself, the more I can ripple out in even bigger and better ways, in forms of our work, in forms of love, like in forms of, like, even my mom, like, after these series of things I've been doing this year, she's like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Because like, I love my mom to death, but mom's like, but now we just actually, we have fun. We're not like, transactional, like, what do you want for dinner, like it's such a different sense of where love comes from. And that, I guess for me, if I continue this path out, that'll be success.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love bringing in the generationality of it, right? Is that as we connect through different generations, and we see this in schools, we see this as kind of a, I don't want to call it a conflict, but it's definitely an area of growth within our schools to honor the different generations and what success looks like and what wealth looks like and what freedom looks like. And like, we need to define these words so that we can actually communicate on that level, regardless of our generation. And it's why, like, you and I both are passionate about core values work. And when we find that common language of values, that we get to this unified place. And so you're talking about fun with your mom, like that's if fun is a value of yours, or embedded in however you phrase it, then that's where you meet in that real and authentic place, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally. And I love that you bring up the generational, ancestral thing, because that's a part of success too, in my mind, is that, like, in so many forms, like our previous generations, our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, they freaking succeeded. Everything they did, they sacrificed for. It's kind of like, but no one gave them a high five. But you're like, holy shit, you freaking did it, and we have this luxury of benefiting from all that. Yeah, yes, of course, there's a lot of challenges out there, but damn, it's crazy what they did for us. And so I love that you're bringing that up, because I think the more we can embed that in our, everyday ideology, our thoughts, a way we talk, and it's like it's the least we can do to honor that.
Yeah, which is huge, right? And I think so often we look at history and then go, that's the past, and we want to push it away, versus going, no, the richness of where we are now is as a result of the successes and the lessons that have been carried forward, and how do we actually take the juiciness of that now to then design our futures with intention. Honoring traditions, and I'm sure you have these conversations in the cultures that you transform. We definitely do in schools, where it's like, the richness of the tradition in some of the high schools that have been around for generations, right? And they're like, don't mess with this part, like that mural is there because someone's great grandfather painted that mural, like we don't, yes, it's faded, so we need to honor it and touch it up, not paint over it and pretend it didn't happen, right? And so there's a lot of pieces there.
Yeah, totally. It's so cool. I want to learn more. I mean, I want to hear one of your stories of one of the most touching or impactful or transformational, experiences you've had.
Yeah, the first one that popped into mind was when I was at Desert Pines High School, and we had I've been working with their administrative team for a whole year to get them to be a team in flow before we even created their core values in year 2. And so pulling together a culture leadership team and pulling their entire school community, all of their value, teaching them what a core value is, pulling all their values words, and then getting to a place with this culture leadership team where we were starting in the wordsmithing and trying to come down to the short list and putting it all together. And we had come up with their short list of words, and so I had them on flip chart paper all around the library where we were. And so it's this team, and there was about 20 of us in the room. And they're like, I don't know, everyone's kind of feeling wonky. I'm like, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if this is it. Okay, well, hang on. We're going to do a little walking, exercise inside of each of the values that, they had already articulated up on the walls. And I said, now I want, 2 of you to go to each. They had 10 at the time. And I want you to come up with a story from the teacher perspective and a story from the student perspective of that value being at play. And so we got to hear 20 little stories. And by the time they were done, they were like, oh, that is us. It probably wasn't that cheesy, but that's how I heard it.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah. And it was just so beautiful and so impactful just to feel that resonance, right? Into that, like, just holding the mirror up for who they are on their best day, not some aspirational version of who they want to be, but who they are. They just get to notice it. And that's a gift to me every time I get to see that.
That's beautiful. Nice.
Beautiful work that, gets to come through us. And again, I always say, I wouldn't be doing this work had you and Tony not pushed me out of the nest and said, you're passionate about it, go build it. We're not going to do it under DH, you go do it on your own. And I was like, am I without DH? I don't know who I am. And so to spend these last 10 years really figuring out who I am and what does light me up, and trusting my own intuition, trusting my own wings. And
totally.
now, with my son just moving out 6 months ago, and now I just sold my house in Vegas, and I'm doing this empty nester gap year thing, and I'm going to go create a home base in New Hampshire. And
oh, wow.
I'm going to, I still have work here in Vegas. I have work in Florida. Like, I'm traveling and running and jumping and playing, which is awesome. But it is a big leap of faith to go, okay, I have no groundedness. I just let go of the cliff, and speaking of questioning everything, it is, oh my God, like watching my storage pod of things be lifted away and carried away was super surreal, and go, oh, nest gone, wings, do something. Oh, wait, we know how to do this. Okay. Do we know how to do this? Wait, do we know how to do this? Yes, we know how to do this. Wait, do we know how to do this?
Well, it seems like you're ready, and as you are readier than you've ever been. And as you were talking, like it's, it wasn't me or Tony or anything. It's like I hear people and they're like, "Oh, thanks for helping me change," or "Thanks for changing my perspective." And it's actually, no, you did. You helped you change, and that's the whole thing. It's like no one can. The empowerment of within what you're doing is like that's the beauty of it. You had most to do with it.
Yeah, the spark is important, so it's honorable both ways. And I think, with Sheba and I's relationship, and we met at a middle school when she was an instructional coach there, and I think that doesn't do her job justice of the role she was actually in. She was an administrator without getting paid for it. And just that like resonance of community. And so I'd love to talk a little bit about community, because that's kind of how Sheba and I connected, and I invited her to be my co-host on this podcast, and kind of the power of that, and how you've used that to fuel your work and your world, and even your team and who you surround yourself with. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, like as you probably remember, our model is me, we, community, and how they're concentric circles, because that ripple is one that emanates out from the me, but they're also yeah, that was quick. Like you had your like finger there the whole time, like on that page.
Well, so I just have to tell you, Jen, Sandy bought this for the team
Thanks,
last Christmas. And as an educator, I don't really read books like front to back anymore. And this start with the me has really transformed who I am as an educator in the classroom. Wow. So that's why when you were talking, I had this up, and I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
That's awesome. No, not at all. Interrupt more often. That gave me another set of chills. That's so cool. Yeah, so like community being that when you start with the me, and then you ripple to the we, because that's when you're building your team and all that. And it's so naturally to build that, community that I think is not even, it's not the traditional sense of how we think of community. Is like, especially since 2020, especially because we all don't have, we're in Zoom land right now, but are we connecting? Yeah, we are connecting, actually, even though it's not ideal. But I mean, we all know it's that connection, that connectedness is more needed than ever for all the stats that we've seen on loneliness and depression. And now we're talking all these things about mental health in a very transparent way, which I think there's some silver linings of all this, and that was one of them. I think is that we're able to speak transparently about these crazy issues that it was always there, but just under the hood. And then COVID just blasted the hood, and it's like, yes, let's be real about this. So that in itself, I think, like lends to even potentially even tighter sense of community, because we can get that real with one another and just have that real talk, and just knowing that when we can build those things like psychological safety in the classroom, in the workplace, then that's when all these things that we used to talk about, like meaningful connections, that's where it starts. That's how it grows from there. So yeah, I know it's more needed than ever, and I'm glad that we have all these people like you that understand where that true community can come from.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't come from being your inauthentic self. It comes from being your authentic self and attracting those like minds and
totally
hearts, and really kind of leaning into that. And little side note, when Zoom kind of first became big, I don't know what you call it, the thing, right?
The ruler of our lives.
Ruler of our lives. It's like I was thinking back to we were Zooming before Zooming was cool. I don't even remember it. We were probably using Skype or something else at that point in time. But it really allowed me to pivot my schools and focus on their culture. And I was doing free Wednesday principal chats as soon as the pandemic hit, because I already knew how to leverage technology for that. And be able to continue creating connectedness and community virtually. And I had been working with a school in Florida for a couple of years prior to the pandemic virtually, and then I fly out there once a quarter. And so I already had the rhythm, and again, all of the building blocks kind of get you to where you are now, and kind of how we all learn and grow and evolve. And so with that, what's something you're still working on? What's still hanging out there where you're like, yep, this is my thing right now?
Me working on me every day. It's the me project.
Right. Fun learning.
Yeah, it's that, and really, again, with the beginner's mindset of seeing how that work changes what I put out there and how I show up. And I think that I've been feeling, because of this lightness, that there's more room for creativity. So I don't know exactly what the next big project is or anything, but kind of feel it will come when it's ready. But yeah, I mean, working on the me project's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job. Back to that practice, right? And meditation practice, working out is a practice, healthy eating is a practice.
Yes, exactly.
We can all fall out of practice and make mistakes and have off days, and it's up, right?
Yeah, and just being gentle about that. Like, we all can feel like we're our worst critic, but like the words of being more gentle, more kind, more curious. It's pretty cool how if you say those kind of words inside internally, it does reframe things and lets that, that once before very tense moment, or like, damn it, why'd you do that, Jen? And be able to identify that and just let it kind of like wash away quicker than it would have otherwise.
Yeah. So when you think about the book and sharing of the key learnings, but really, if there was one thing that you wanted to share forward with students, educators, and we have our Vanna Shiva showing off the book.
Vanna 2.0.
Exactly. What's that impactful lesson that you would love people to take away from the book?
Well, I mean, you will resonate with this in some ways, because Tony used to always talk about how as leaders, we want to be basically growing greenhouses, not be the tallest tree or the biggest plant, but create the conditions for others to grow. And, of course, totally believer of that. Through the learnings of the book writing of 2020, of his passing, I realized there was a build there. And the build was like, it's not rocket science, but it's like, yes, we want to grow the greenhouses, but we have to nurture our own greenhouse too. And it's like the whole, oxygen mask airplane analogy, but maybe we forgot that because, we couldn't fly for like 2 years, but now we can. And so, and also the whole metaphor is a bit more positive towards growth in a greenhouse versus like,
versus we're going to die
dying on a plane. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that metaphor of just please remember to nurture your own greenhouse as you're trying to grow others. And that's the whole part of like why I'm such a big believer in the beginner's mindset of testing on your own, being your own scientist, being your own gardener. Because we can't keep on learning how to nurture that greenhouse, and we should, because by embracing those things that we might have not in the past, that's where the biggest nurturing can be, like embracing the resistance of what made us fearful or anxious or scared in the past. Is like, wow, if you actually sit down with it and like have a cup of tea with fear, how much we learn in how we can nurture our greenhouse.
Yeah, I love that. Embracing the resistance. It's beautiful. Beautiful. So in addition to Tony, who else inspires you? Who are you reading? Who are you studying? Who are you learning from right now?
Mm. I haven't picked up the next book yet, but I don't know, like for me, I have been just getting inspired by those that are just doing what they do authentically and without, need for recognition or reward. So just people that people don't even know about. Yeah, I guess I really talking about learning, like I always felt like I can learn from anyone. And so we can get, swept up into like keeping up with like the big icons out there. Like, there's awesome people like Adam Grant's doing amazing work in our space. Brene Brown. I still get inspired by Maya Angelou for I Will Forever. Oh gosh, every time. I know, right? But yeah, I'm really digging just like learning from everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Shiva is the biggest purveyor of pulling book quotes and authors out of thin air, which is, I'm like, you know that? And she goes, yeah, this. And I'm like, oh, yes, that. I'm so
Wow.
excited. Yes.
I don't, well, so my, I teach, AP literature, which is the highest English course in our
Wow.
school right now. So we just finished Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison.
Wow.
And that final line is, what the protagonist learns is if you surrender to the air, you could ride it. And that's what I was basically talking about to my students. It's like, it's so easy, especially in that year where they're applying for college, to be so worried about this, that, and the other. And I said, you know what? Have you ever just went by how you feel?
Mm.
And let's just let go of the things that we can't control.
Mm.
And how much different life is going to be. And I'm like, even if you don't win, you're going to learn. I'm like, there's no loss here. And they're so cute because they like listen. That's the one thing that I think. Well, but that's what COVID did to the kids. I mean, if we're talking about that working on me, it took away all of the distractions.
Yeah.
So Gen Z had to really focus on themselves. And I think, when we were talking about, the different generations and things like that, what I love about this generation is they hold space for each other.
Mm.
And so, and that's what you were saying, you can learn from anyone, and they really do listen.
Mm.
And so anyways, when you were saying book quotes, Sandy, that's the last one that I was working on with my kids. And they were like, if you surrender to the air, you could ride it. I'm like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
What's it going to hurt at this point? You've been stressed out for the last 6 weeks. Let's just try, going by our intuition, listening to what the inside of us is saying. You can trust that person. It's okay. So
Wow, that was powerful. I love that. I love that quote. It really is about surrendering. I mean, I feel like it's hand in hand with a beginner's mindset. It's like, just surrender. What do you got to lose?
There you go. And I think, and you were talking about that earlier, I think it's that, it is that fear, because I think when we look forward and we don't see what's going on, it's like, oh, what am I going to do? But you already know what's back there, and you don't want to go back. So it's like, might as well just keep moving forward. The light at the end of the tunnel will show up sooner or later. So, yeah.
So true.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The stories that Shiva gets to share of how she leads her classroom and the culture that she creates in that container, that it creates such a beautiful bubble of growth and learning, regardless of what's going on outside of her classroom. And it's the things that we teach to educate. We're trying to do it school-wide, and Shiva just does such a beautiful job within her classroom to then have that growth and learning in the wisdom to connect with her students in a way where she actually sees the intangibles of what's happening with this generation. There's so many people that are talking about what's wrong what's
Mhm.
broken, what they're not doing, that they're entitled, like all of the shame and guilt and judgment, versus when you do truly put them into this container, this greenhouse, if you will, that allows them to grow and learn and thrive as the unique, amazing humans that they are. I mean, it's just really beautiful work. And tomorrow, I have a genius camp, a master genius camp under the nonprofit that we started in partnership with the Genius Group globally. And it's this group of students that we've had going through our camps for the last 4 years. And it's a group of 25, and to be able to put them now back into a physical container, because we've been virtual with them for the past 2 years, obviously. And so I could not be more excited to create this container with them tomorrow and see where they are and how. I mean, we started working with them when they were in 6th and 7th grade, and now they're sophomores and juniors in high school. And two of them at our fundraising event last night, and I was like, oh my God, you've grown bigger than crazy. That's hard to do, but it's
so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But first, I gotta say, how do I sign up for your class, Shiva? Because I'm like,
yeah.
If you were ever in the Washington, D.C. area, you are welcome anytime. Anytime. We just have great discussions, and I like that you were saying, how like our parents and our aunts and uncles, they allowed us to have the opportunities we have now. And I think for those of us who are Gen X or older millennials, we've really got to stop, because we beat up on ourselves a lot. I don't know about you all. I know I do. I'm working on that. I'm working on me. But I think that from what we've learned is we have really given the next generation just a safe place, like you're talking about that container, right, Sandy, to really live freely, right? The barriers that I think, we were latch. I'm not going to speak for everyone. I know that I was a latch.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. Right. You figured it out on your own, but we, for this generation, we built those safe containers, and not only do they make safe spaces for themselves, but they stand up for each other. And it is so beautiful to see.
Wow.
The students in my class, with the discussions that I have, you'll have students say, I really like what Amy said. I really like what John said. You know what, Zara, I don't agree with you, but I'm going to work on that and really think about it after class, and maybe tomorrow it will be different. So I just want to say that it doesn't seem like it now, but this next generation with all of their issues and TikToking, I always see kids doing the dances. I'm like, put that away. But besides that, they really do know how to hold that space for each other. And how beautiful is that? They're not afraid to, but they're not afraid to do the work.
Yeah, totally.
If you say in class, like, you know what, I could really use an extra session with my therapist, the kids are like, oh, you know what, we understand.
Yeah.
Like it's not even a stigma for them.
Yeah.
Therapy or meditation or journaling.
Yeah.
If I say I bought a new journal, they're like, oh, that's so great, Miss Rashada. I mean, they're on board. And how beautiful is that?
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
Yes.
That's so cool.
I
totally
really
believe. Huh?
Yeah. No, I'm saying, no, it really is.
Yeah, I believe it. I totally believe it.
Yeah. Well, what do we call post-COVID, Jen? If it was BC, is it AC?
It's AC, but it's hard to say AC because this COVID's going to be here forever.
Still here. I know.
I got to make up something new.
Yeah. Let us know when you come up with that.
I will. I wish I was in DC just a few weeks ago too. Dang it.
You're going to have to schedule time, before her students are gone. I'm sure that they would love to, have an author come in and read them a chapter.
Oh my gosh, they would.
You could be throwing things out there, even if it's via Zoom. That would be fun.
That would be fun. And then if I say beyond happiness, then they'll be like, well, you have to make us happy.
You're like, no, I'm beyond that.
Exactly.
So no, anytime that invitation,
all right,
is your classroom.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
That's very exciting.
As we start to wrap up, I have a couple of last questions. Jen, if you had a magic wand, what is your wish for the future of education?
Have more teachers like Shiva and you,
right?
and change this systemic change. Now, like what exactly you're all doing. It's these life tools and lessons that have just never really been embedded in a way that can really grow the next generations into. But it's already, I mean, for what you're saying, Sheba, it's already happening, right? It's already happening. It's just kind of like it needs to get out there. It needs to scale, like just these fundamental life lessons of being a human being is what I hope for the future.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Your lips to all the powers that be, right? Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
And I always love to end with something fun. What was your favorite childhood toy, game, or adventure? Because we're on the playground. We have
There's too many. Yeah.
You can make a list. It's okay. It doesn't have to
Gosh, there's so many. Stratego was really fun, but I don't know why I keep on going to remember those books, Choose Your Own Adventure?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. They need to come back.
They need to come back.
Yeah, the new version. But I love those. I would reread them because you can, but it's a new adventure. But
I'm not dying this time.
Yeah.
Did you ever try to read them start to then in order to like not choose and just to keep going, and it wasn't as fun?
No, I didn't do that.
That was me trying to break.
Probably because it wasn't fun.
I was trying to break the rules. I'm like, this is like,
yeah, I'm sure you learned a lot that way, though.
I learned a lot. I learned what not to do. Don't break the rules, Sandy. Don't break the rules.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh, I love it. Jenn, thank you so much for
being here. Thank you. This was really fun.
This
is so cool.
Soon, please.
Yeah.
Whenever we can meet in the same city, let's kind of figure that out.
Likewise. I'm in the Bay, so you know where to find me.
I think I'll just have to make a trip.
I love it.
Yes.
But I love it. Thank you everyone for listening to the Conscious Educator Playground podcast. Sheba, thank you as always for being my amazing co-host. And Jenn, I will see you very soon. Much love to you. Thanks everyone. Love you.
Love you too.